everybody? Ryan Michael Ballo here to talk about caffeine and nootropics. Caffeine is an interesting molecule. It is a remarkably liked molecule, but I would like to talk about how nootropics might just be the better choice to get that edge in terms of energy and brain performance in the morning. I have been drinking caffeine for quite some time, and mostly it's been in the form of coffee. In the last 2 to 3 years, it's sort of gotten to the point where too much caffeine tends to make me a little anxious, so I've changed to green tea and black tea. But still, even if it's just green tea and black tea, I still kind of get a little too anxious, and it doesn't affect my brain the way that I would like. I'd much rather have a holistic, integrated kind of brain performance that nootropics can give me, that I can target sort of certain elements of brain performance with, very specifically based on the quantity and type of nutrient, then kind of have like this just overall stimulation that happens, you know, when one molecule, caffeine, binds to adenosine receptors and, you know, makes me kind of feel awake or a little bit anxious or something. I don't really like that feeling. So, you know, caffeine is pervasive, right? You know, if you go to Wawa, 7-Eleven, or name your local convenience store, you're going to find a whole stand dedicated to coffee, like to morning coffee and tea and caffeine. And that's just the way that things are in America and a lot of other places in the world. I'm not really knocking caffeine. I'm just saying that this is a very, very pervasive dynamic. But think about this. If one who spends $5 a day, like say the average person that goes to Starbucks, which is a lot of people, were to, instead of going to Starbucks, spend some money on a nootropic stack, $30 or $33 or $38 on a nootropic stack that lasts 15 days to 30 days, they would end up saving money. $5, by the way, per 30 days is $150. And people spend that all the time. $150 on Starbucks coffee. And sometimes, like, you get the grande or like the venti, super large coffees at Starbucks, it's $6, $7, right, depending on the size of the thing, and whatever else, you know, you might want to put in it. So you might save money, first of all, getting a nootropic and having a nootropic instead of caffeine. But I think that the withdrawal symptoms of not having the caffeine molecule in your brain are so severe. You know, like headache, fatigue, the entire day is essentially ruined, right? And some of the next day. For some people, it lasts 2-3 days until you get out of that fog, and then you're kind of back to yourself, your brain kind of starts to regulate itself, and you can function normally again. But you've got a 1 to 3 day period, sometimes 4 or 5 for some people, that is atrocious in terms of brain performance, just as a result of withdrawing from caffeine. That's a problem. There are nootropics for which this is just not the case. Most of them, actually. And I say most of them, and I'm kind of referring to the ones, what I'm sort of in the background referring to are the ones that do create that problem. And they aren't considered nootropics. That would be Adderall and Ritalin. Those are two that people seem to group into the smart drugs category, but aren't smart drugs. Definitely aren't nootropics, aren't in either of those categories, and should never, ever be written about by anyone else in the media again, or anyone that has a blog somewhere that thinks they know about smart drugs and nootropics, as an inclusion in those two categories. But for the rest of them, aniracetam, acetyl-L-carnitine, CDP-choline, uridine monophosphate, alpha-GPC, oxiracetam, on and on and on and on and on. You know, there's no withdrawal symptoms when you don't take them anymore, especially for the really, really good ones. The onset is not some crazy onset that just like blows you out of your state right now and is sort of uncomfortable as a result of that. And the exfil, the sort of when it stops affecting you, does not drop off like caffeine does, and like a lot of other stuff does, to the point where you're like, oh, no, now I need to re-up on my caffeine consumption. I need to get that back so I can get my brain performance back. No. There are a lot of stacks out there, a lot of good nootropic stacks for which this just isn't the case. When it's finished affecting you, it's just kind of a nice smooth transition back into regular brain performance, right? It's not a massive drop-off, and that's what's so awesome about nootropics, and one of the things that makes it a greater choice to use over caffeine for morning energy and for energy throughout the rest of the day. But, you know, for people that don't like to drink caffeine later in the day, which is a lot of people, because it affects them negatively and affects their sleep, for morning energy. Listen, I'm not knocking caffeine. I used to drink a lot of coffee, and I like it. I mean, I wish I could drink a whole lot of coffee. I just get too anxious and get too jittery. But if I could drink coffee, it would be nice. There's a taste element to it, and there's some other kind of elements to it. There's the routine element to it, where you get up and you're like, oh, I like the smell of it, and you like drinking it, and it's good in those regards. But compared to good nootropic stacks, you've got very, very many negative side effects. You've got very, very many like kind of parts of it that aren't as optimal as nootropics. Withdrawal is a major one of them, and it lasts a few days. A drop-off is a major one of them, and that puts you in a place where you're not performing as well as you were before, and now you notice it, and now you're like, what other stimulant do I engage in to sort of get my brain back and forth? And for some people, like late in the day, it's like alcohol or something. Atrocious. Nootropics really can fill that void and provide a much better, more integrated onset, a better functioning brain state throughout the day, and a really, really wonderfully integrated exfil where you really just don't feel significantly different after the nootropic descends, after the nootropics effects descend. In fact, for a lot of nootropics, they're still kind of working in your brain because they've optimized your brain thereafter. There's residual effect. You take something like acetyl L-carnitine and uridine and CDP choline as a combo, you get the dose that's right for you, making sure you're up on B vitamins because those use a lot of B vitamins when they're synthesizing acetylcholine and phosphatidylcholine. The drop-off is not going to be even significant at all. There won't be a drop-off. In fact, there'll be a smooth transition into continued optimized brain function. Very, very different than a complete drop-off, which is what happens with caffeine. So, summarizing, I'm not knocking caffeine. I think it's awesome. I think, it's definitely classified as nootropic based on the chemical underpinnings of what it does. But one would get a better benefit, and it would be interesting if the vast majority of people, in the country, instead of drinking caffeine, took nootropics. It's a completely different thing, completely different ballgame. And, and for some people, more optimal. I mean, for me, when I take nootropics as opposed to caffeine, it's far more optimal for what I've got to do, for how I want my brain to perform, for how integrated I think it needs to be, for the specific tasks that require certain types of brain function, like focus, that I need to engage in. Nootropics are far better than that. I mean, caffeine, as an example, for some people, and me included, makes me... It sort of inhibits my creativity in a way that is a non-starter. If I want to just plug away at work, okay, great. But sometimes I would like to plug away at work and have that ability, but also have the ability to just, be a little more creative and a little more sort of open-minded and less stressed out and anxious as a result. And, I can't get that with caffeine. I've got to take good nootropics that I devised myself, that I thought about and put some time into, and that kind of work toward addressing various elements of brain function. So, thanks a lot for watching. If you've not tried the Cortex Nootropic Stack, snag yourself a bottle at livecortex.com. That is our Generation 1 stack that's out there, kicking butt in the nootropics community and improving a lot of people's brains. Gen 2 is coming out in roughly August of 2016 if everything goes well, so look forward to that. And that is all. Thanks for watching.